Admiral Saren stood motionless before the vast observation window of the Galactic Alliance flagship Luminous Dawn, her four eyes fixed on the holographic displays, showing yet another disappeared scout ship. The vessel's last transmission had cut off mid-sentence, just like the others. No distress signal, no debris, no explanation. That's the seventh ship this cycle, Admiral, her executive officer, Commander Vex, reported. His scaled skin rippled with concern as he handed her the latest analysis. Same pattern as before. All systems normal until they crossed the threshold at 2.7 astronomical units from the target planet. Saren's outer eyes remained fixed on the display while her inner pair scanned the report. The numbers didn't lie. They'd lost more ships investigating this backwater world than in the last 3 military campaigns combined. Earth shouldn't have been capable of this. Their scans showed a fractured civilization barely capable of reaching their own moon, still burning fossil fuels and fighting among themselves over dwindling resources. "Show me the signal again," she ordered, her translator implant giving her words a sharp edge. The holographic display shifted, showing a peculiar transmission that had caught the Alliance's attention 3 months ago. It had seemed innocuous at first, just another random burst of electromagnetic radiation from a developing world. But there was something about its structure, its complexity, that had set off every alarm in their detection systems. The signal danced before her, its patterns both familiar and alien. It spoke of advanced mathematics, quantum mechanics, and technological concepts that should have been centuries beyond Earth's current development. Yet their long-range scans showed no evidence of such advancement on the planet's surface. "Admiral," Vex ventured, "perhaps we should consider implementing the quarantine protocol." 7 ships. Denied. Saren cut him off. "The Council wants answers, not excuses. Whatever's down there, it's not just protecting Earth. It's hiding something." She turned to face her crew, all of them the finest officers the Alliance had to offer. "We've been approaching this like a routine survey mission. That ends now." She strode to the tactical display, her ceremonial armor catching the starlight. "Bring up everything we know about human history." A cascade of information filled the air around her: archaeological data, atmospheric composition studies, genetic analyses from discrete probe sampling. "Look at this," she pointed to a particular graph. 5 major extinction events, each one nearly wiping out all life on the planet. Yet somehow, life not only survived but thrived afterward, every single time. She moved to another display. And here, their genetic diversity is off the charts. No other known world has produced anything close to this level of evolutionary experimentation. "What are you suggesting, Admiral?" Vex asked, his scales shifting to a deeper shade of blue. "I'm suggesting that Earth isn't just protected. It's been cultivated." She let that sink in, like a garden or a laboratory. The bridge fell silent as the implications hit home. Saren continued, her voice low but intense. "We need to change our approach. No more scout ships. No more passive observation." She pulled up a tactical display of their fleet. "We're going to launch a full-spectrum analysis probe. But this time, we're going to make it look like a natural phenomenon. A rogue asteroid. Won't whatever's protecting them detect the deception?" Vex questioned. "Probably," Saren admitted. "But that's what we're counting on. We need to see how it reacts to different types of threats. The scout ships were obviously military in nature. Let's see what happens when we present something that could be natural." The next 12 hours were a flurry of activity as the Luminous Dawn's engineering teams modified a Class 4 probe to match the composition of a typical Kuiper Belt object. They loaded it with the most sophisticated sensors the Alliance had ever deployed, carefully shielded to prevent detection. "Launch trajectory calculated," the navigation officer announced. "The probe will take a path that suggests it was deflected by Neptune's gravity well." Saren nodded. "Launch when ready." The probe shot out from the Luminous Dawn's launch bay, its thrusters firing briefly before going dark. To any observer, it would appear to be just another piece of space debris, tumbling endlessly through the void. But inside, its sensors were wide awake, gathering data about everything around it. For 3 days, they watched as the probe made its way toward Earth. It passed the threshold where they'd lost the scout ships without incident. Saren felt her hearts beat faster. Had they finally found a way through? Admiral. The sensor officer's cry shattered her hope. Something's happening to the probe. The readings were unlike anything they'd seen before. Space itself seemed to twist around the probe, as if reality was being rewritten at a fundamental level. The probe's sensors recorded everything, transmitting data back to the fleet at speeds that should have been impossible. Then, just before contact was lost, they received one final burst of information. Saren stared at it in disbelief. It wasn't data about the probe's destruction. It was a message, written in perfect Alliance standard. Organic evolution must proceed juvenient or repeated. Further interference will be met with escalating your response. This is your own The bridge erupted in chaos as officers rushed to analyze the message, verify its authenticity, and check for any signs of data corruption. But Saren stood still, her 4 eyes fixed on those words. After 20 years in the Alliance fleet, she'd seen everything from quantum anomalies to living stars. But this was different. Admiral, Vex approached cautiously. Your orders? Saren took a deep breath. Prepare a full report for the Council. But first, she turned to face her crew. I want every scrap of information we have about Earth's evolutionary history, every extinction event, every major adaptation, every unusual genetic development. Whatever's protecting them doesn't just want us to stay away. It wants their evolution to continue without interference. I want to know why. As her crew scrambled to comply, Saren returned to the observation window. Earth hung in the distance, a seemingly innocent blue marble against the black of space. But now she knew better. That innocent-looking planet wasn't just another world to be studied or eventually contacted. It was something far more important and far more dangerous. What are you? She whispered to herself. And what are you creating down there? The answer, she suspected, would change everything they thought they knew about life in the galaxy. But first, they had to survive long enough to find it. The holographic display aboard the luminous Dawn showed billions of years of Earth's history compressed into a dizzying time-lapse. Admiral Saren watched intently as continents split and reformed, oceans rose and fell, and life evolved in explosive bursts followed by devastating extinctions. Stop, she commanded. Return to time index 65.5 million years prior. The display froze, then zoomed in on a familiar scene, a massive asteroid hurtling toward prehistoric Earth. The Cretaceous extinction event. Except something wasn't right. Chief Scientist Wren. She called to the spindly figure hunched over a complex array of instruments. Analysis. Wren's elongated fingers danced over his controls. The asteroid's trajectory shows subtle corrections. Admiral. Almost imperceptible, but they're there. Someone or something adjusted its path to ensure maximum impact while preserving specific regions of the planet. Commander Vex's scales shifted to a pale yellow, a sign of disbelief. You're suggesting the extinction event was engineered. Not just engineered, Saren said quietly. Optimized. She gestured at the display. Look at the impact zone, the subsequent dust distribution, the chemical composition of the ejecta. It's perfect, too perfect. This wasn't a random cosmic accident. It was surgical. The implications sent a chill through the bridge crew. They'd suspected Earth was being protected, but this was something else entirely. Whatever force guarded the planet hadn't just been watching. It had been actively shaping Earth's evolutionary path for millions of years. Admiral, the communications officer interrupted. Priority message from the Council. Saren nodded. In my quarters. She needed privacy for this conversation. The Council members' holograms materialized around her small conference table, 12 of the most powerful beings in the Alliance, representing species from across the galaxy. Their expressions ranged from concerned to openly hostile. Admiral Saren, High Counselor Zix began, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that conveyed deep unease. Your latest report is disturbing. The evidence is conclusive, counselors. Earth isn't just another developing world. It's the product of the most extensive and long-running evolutionary experiment we've ever encountered. That's impossible, Counselor Meyer interrupted, her feathered crest bristling. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical. No civilization could maintain such a project for millions of years. Unless, Counselor 10 interjected thoughtfully, it's not a civilization as we understand it. The ancient arthropods' compound eyes flickered. What if we're dealing with something that transcends our definition of life itself? Before Saren could respond, her ship's AI chimed an urgent alert. Admiral, we're detecting an anomaly. Something is emerging from Earth's direction. Meeting adjourned, Saren snapped, rushing to the bridge. The sight that greeted her stopped her cold. A ship was approaching. If you could call it a ship, it seemed to bend space around itself, its form shifting and flowing like liquid mercury. It was enormous, easily dwarfing the luminous dawn, yet it had appeared from nowhere, as if it had simply decided to exist. Battle stations. Vex asked tensely. Saren shook her head. No. If it wanted to attack, we'd already be gone. She stepped forward. Open all frequencies. Let's see if it wants to talk. The response was instantaneous. A voice filled the bridge, not through their communication systems, but seemingly directly in their minds. It spoke in perfect Alliance standard, but somehow conveyed the weight of eons in each word. U-H-V-Q-U-E-S-T-I-O-N-S. Some may be anets the word. Saren squared her shoulders. What are you? I am He-E-Guardianeer. The H-H-E-P-E-R-D of Pathes. The curator of P-O-S-S-I-D-I-L-I-T-Y. Did you create humanity? No, I guide. I prune. I optimize the conditions. But T-A-E patiorans, they'd E-M-E-R-G are there ovoen. Vex stepped forward. Why Earth? Why humans? There was a pause, as if the entity was considering how much to reveal. They are DIFFE-orient. Their neurial architecture, ALOVIS-FORQUANTUMCOHERENCE-8 make-uro-stales. It is unexpected, unprecedented. Saren's heart raced. Are you saying humans have some kind of natural quantum computing capability? Primitive, undeveloped, but prescient. They DREM in QUANTUM UPERPOSIT. They think in PROBABLITY They are the first organic species to naturally evolve this trait. The bridge crew exchanged stunned looks. If this was true, it explained everything. Why Earth was so carefully protected, why its evolution had been so meticulously guided. Humanity wasn't just another intelligent species waiting to join the galactic community. They were something entirely new. What happens when they discover this ability? Saren asked. The entity's response carried a note of what might have been anticipation. They are beginning to. Watch. A new hologram appeared, showing the human research facility. Inside, scientists were conducting what appeared to be standard quantum physics experiments. But according to the readings, something impossible was happening. The quantum states they were observing were being influenced by the mere presence of the researchers, not their equipment, not their measurements, but their consciousness itself. How long? Saren whispered. Soon, within one human generation, they will understand. Within 2, they will master it. Within 3, they go ultrance it. And then, Then they join us. Or perhaps we join them. The PTTRN is not yet clear. The implications were staggering. The Alliance had always assumed they represented the peak of evolution, that their technological advancement was the only path to cosmic relevance. But here was something else entirely. A species' naturally evolving capabilities that the most advanced races could only dream of. The Council needs to know about this, Vex said quietly. They will be too old, the entity agreed. But they must understand interference is not pyramided. Humanity must reach this point on their own, or the potential is lost. Saren nodded slowly. And if anyone tries to interfere? The entity's response was simple, but carried the weight of absolute certainty. They will notice you see. As the mysterious ship began to fade from view, Saren couldn't help but feel she had just witnessed a turning point in galactic history. The question wasn't whether humanity would join the cosmic community, but whether the cosmic community was ready for humanity. She turned to her crew. Set course for Alliance headquarters. The Council needs to hear this in person. As the luminous dawn prepared to jump to FTL, Saren took one last look at the innocent-looking blue planet below. Somewhere down there, unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding above them, humanity was taking its first steps toward an evolution that would reshape the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her quantum entanglement experiment results for the third time, convinced she must be missing something. The numbers didn't lie, but they also didn't make sense. The quantum particles were maintaining coherence far longer than they should, and only when certain members of her team were present in the lab. "Run it again," she told her assistant, Dr. James Kumar. "But this time, I want you to observe while I leave the room." The moment she stepped out, the readings returned to normal. Sarah pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the observation window, her mind racing. They'd reproduced this effect dozens of times over the past week. Human presence, specific humans, somehow affected quantum states directly. Meanwhile, high above Earth's atmosphere, the Galactic Alliance Council was in an uproar. The grand chamber aboard the Alliance capital ship, Eternal Concordance, echoed with dozens of voices speaking in different languages, all unified in their concern. "We cannot simply wait." Councillor Meyer's feathers were fully extended in agitation. If humans developed these abilities without proper guidance, they could destabilize the entire galaxy. Admiral Saren stood calmly before them, her four eyes steady. The gardener was explicit. Interference will not be tolerated. The gardener, High Councillor Zix's crystalline form, pulsed with deep blues of frustration. An entity we know nothing about, claiming powers we can barely comprehend, demanding we stand idle, while a primitive species stumbles into abilities that could reshape reality itself. Primitive. Councillor 10 clicked his mandibles in amusement. They achieved in natural evolution what we could not accomplish with 1,000,000 years of technological advancement. Perhaps we should reconsider our definition of primitive. Back on Earth, Sarah was compiling her findings when her computer screen flickered. Text appeared that she hadn't typed. "Greetings, Dr. CJDN. You are asking he right questions." Sarah froze, then slowly typed back, "Who is this?" "I am the Guardianeer. You are discovering. Hello is always pen within you. Within us." Sarah's fingers trembled as she typed. "The quantum coherence effects. Yes, humanity has evolved. You are amongte first to manifest conscious quantum manipulation. Others will follow." In the Alliance chamber, the debate had turned dangerous. "We should quarantine the entire system," Councillor Meyer proposed, "for their safety and ours." "Impossible," Saren countered. "The gardener wouldn't allow it." Then we find a way to neutralize this Gardner, another counselor suggested. We have the combined military might of 1,000 worlds. The chamber fell silent as a new presence made itself known. The air shimmered, and the familiar Mercury-like form of the Gardner's ship appeared outside the station's massive windows. Unwise, the thought echoed through every mind present. Then, to their horror, the entire station began to shift. Space twisted, and suddenly they were no longer in orbit around the Alliance capital world. They were above Earth. Observe, the Gardner commanded. The station's sensors activated automatically, focusing on a research facility in Beijing. They watched as Dr. Sarah Chen and her team conducted their experiments, unaware of their audience. "What are we seeing?" Zix demanded. "PROF," came the reply. One of the human researchers concentrated on a quantum measurement device. The readings spiked impossibly high, defying every known law of physics. But this is only the beginning. The view shifted, showing similar scenes around the globe. In Mumbai, a student accidentally teleported a pencil while deep in thought. In Lagos, a researcher found she could predict quantum random number generators with impossible accuracy. In Sao Paulo, a physicist discovered he could influence quantum computers with his mind. "How many?" Saren whispered. "QURENTLY, 1 in a million humans, shows active ability. Within 10 years, 1 in 1,000. Within 50, 1 in 10. Within a century, all of them." The council chamber erupted again, but this time in fear rather than anger. This could destabilize the entire fabric of space-time. Meyer cried. "No," the Gardner corrected. "It will transform it. As intended." Back in Beijing, Sarah was having a very different conversation with the entity. "Why tell me this now?" she typed. "Because you mused and the choice ahead. Humanity stands at ACROSSROADs. What choice? You can embrace this evolution and help guide your species toward its potential, or you can fear it, resist it, and potentially lose it forever." Sarah thought about the implications. Are there others out there? Other species like us? You are forced to evolve this naturally. Others have tried to foresee it through technology. They failed. In the Alliance chamber, Saren watched the Council's fear turn to resignation. They couldn't fight this. The Gardner had made that clear. But perhaps they could prepare. "What role would you have us play?" she asked the entity. "Observation, documentation, preparation. Humanity will join the Galactic community, but not as subGGCTs or EQUALs. They go wild URNS and DOURCURRENT and DRST of EXISTNC. You must be ready. And if we're not, then we'll be left behind." The station shifted again, returning to Alliance space. The Gardner's final message resonated through every mind present. The time of waiting is over. The time of change begins. Sarah Chen sat back in her lab chair, mind reeling from her conversation with the entity. She looked at her team, busy with their experiments, unaware that they were part of something far larger than themselves. "Dr. Chen," James called out, "should we run another test?" Sarah smiled, understanding now what they were really testing. "Yes," she said, "but this time, let's try something new. Don't just observe the quantum states, try to feel them." As her team gathered around the equipment, Sarah felt a subtle shift in her perception. For just a moment, she could see the quantum probability clouds surrounding each person, shimmering with potential. The future was changing, and humanity was about to take its first conscious steps into a reality far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. Above them, Saren gave orders to establish a permanent observation post at the edge of the solar system. They couldn't interfere, but they could watch, learn, and prepare for the day when humanity would emerge onto the galactic stage, not as another spacefaring race, but as something entirely new. The question was, would the galaxy be ready for them? 5 years had passed since Dr. Sarah Chen's first contact with the gardener. The world had changed more in those years than in the previous century. Quantum consciousness research centers had sprung up on every continent as more humans began manifesting abilities that defy classical physics. Admiral Saren stood in the observation dome of the Alliance's monitoring station, watching Earth through specially designed quantum sensors. The planet glowed with an ever-increasing web of quantum entanglement patterns, visible only to their most advanced instruments. Another surge in activity, Commander Vex reported, his scales now permanently shifted to the deep blue of constant amazement. 3 new emergence clusters in the last hour alone. Location: a high school in Kenya, a meditation center in Tibet, and, he paused, double-checking his readings, a retirement home in Florida. Saren nodded. The pattern was becoming clear. Quantum consciousness wasn't tied to age, education, or geography. It was spreading through the human population like a benevolent virus, activating potential that had always been there. On Earth, Sarah led a global network of researchers studying the phenomenon. Today, she was meeting with Amara Okafor, a 16-year-old student from Nairobi, who had accidentally created a stable quantum tunnel between her classroom and the school library. "I was just thinking about how much I needed a particular book," Amara explained, her eyes bright with excitement. And suddenly, there it was, a sort of fold in space. I could reach through and touch the shelf as if it was right next to me. Sarah nodded, recording the experience. "And how did it feel?" "Natural," Amara said without hesitation. "Like I was remembering how to do something I'd always known, but had forgotten." The girl's description matched thousands of others. As humans awakened to their quantum abilities, they consistently reported that it felt innate, not alien. This wasn't an addition to human consciousness. It was an awakening of something that had been dormant for millennia. In orbit, the Alliance observation team detected something new. "Admiral," a sensor technician called out, "the quantum field surrounding Earth. It's starting to resonate with human brain patterns." "Explain," Saren demanded. "It's as if," the technician struggled for words, "as if the planet itself is becoming quantum entangled with its inhabitants." The gardener's ship materialized beside their station, its liquid metal form rippling with what seemed like satisfaction. "It begins," the familiar voice echoed in their minds. "What begins?" Saren asked, though part of her already knew the answer. "The convergence, humanity, as reaching critical mass." On the surface, Sarah was witnessing the phenomenon firsthand. During a global video conference with her research network, participants began reporting synchronized experiences. Quantum events in Beijing were instantly affecting observers in Buenos Aires. Children in Moscow were sharing dreams with their counterparts in Melbourne. "It's not just individual abilities anymore," Sarah realized, speaking to both her colleagues and the gardener, whose presence she could now sense. "We're becoming a quantum-entangled species." "Yes," the gardener confirmed to everyone simultaneously. "Your neural networks are aligning with the quantum substrate of reality, etc." In the Alliance station, Saren watched in awe as the quantum field around Earth pulsed with increasing complexity. "This is why you guided their evolution," she said to the gardener. "Not just for the individual abilities, but for this moment." "Correct. Individual quantum consciousness was only the first step. Humanity is BC lobmeming AQUANTUM species, the first of its kind. The implications staggered even the Alliance's best scientists. A species with a quantum-entangled collective consciousness would transcend normal space-time limitations. They would experience reality in ways that defied classical physics and traditional understanding. On Earth, the changes were accelerating. Sarah found herself increasingly aware of a vast web of consciousness, connecting not just humans, but extending into the quantum fabric of space itself. It was as if humanity was waking up to find they were part of something far larger than themselves. "Admiral," Vex called out urgently. "The quantum field, it's expanding beyond Earth's orbit." They watched as the glowing web of quantum connections reached out into space, touching the Moon, then Mars, then stretching toward the outer planets. But it wasn't just expanding. It was revealing connections that had always been there, hidden in the quantum substrate of the solar system itself. "The UNIVRC is not as UAVUNDRS2ODIT," the gardener explained. "Con and Civio uses and edises, and REALIT are not CCPRIT. They are one system. OPERATANG8VQUANTUM illevial. Humanity is the first organic species to evolve the ability to perceive and integrate with this truth naturally." In her lab, Sarah reached out with her growing awareness, touching the quantum field that surrounded them all. She could sense the Alliance observers in orbit, the gardener's ancient presence, and something else. A vast network of quantum connections stretching across the galaxy, waiting to be discovered. "We're not just changing ourselves," she realized. "We're going to change everything." "Yes," the gardener confirmed. "And it is time for the next phase." Saren felt a shift in the station's quantum sensors. The readings were going off the scale as the field around Earth began to pulse with new patterns, more complex than anything they'd seen before. "What's happening?" she demanded. "Humanity is ready to understand their true place in the universe. Their coincides as an as expanding to NCOMPS, their if of UL potential." On Earth, millions of humans simultaneously experienced a moment of profound revelation as their quantum awareness suddenly deepened. They could see the hidden structures of reality itself, the quantum threads that connected all things, the underlying patterns that shaped existence. Sarah gasped as understanding flooded her consciousness. The gardener hadn't just been protecting Earth or guiding human evolution. It had been preparing humanity for this moment, when they would become aware of their role in the cosmic quantum network. "We're not just observers of the universe," she whispered. "We're part of its operating system." The Alliance station's sensors recorded the moment humanity crossed this final threshold. The quantum field around Earth wasn't just a phenomenon anymore. It was becoming a new state of existence, as humanity began to transform into something that transcended traditional definitions of life and consciousness. Saren watched in wonder, knowing she was witnessing the birth of a new era in cosmic history. The galaxy would never be the same, and perhaps that had been the plan all along.